Hello everyone at hello everyone at DF exclamation point. I've seen a video, Moore's Law is Dead, I believe, where he roughly estimates the power of the Switch 2 or Super Switch, as I prefer, being somewhere between Steam Deck and the Series S. Also, a lot of the conversation around Microsoft handheld imagines it as a Series S refocused into a portable device. My question is how likely we see in the next couple of years a handheld with proper console pricing with the equivalent power of Series S. I think this is two separate discussions. We've already covered the concept of basically transferring Series S performance into a handheld. It can't be done for a long, long time. However, when you're looking at Switch 2, you're looking at a very different type of device, which is an NVIDIA-powered machine, which is built on a very, very different architecture. That has ray tracing support hardware built into it. It should scale quite nicely. It's got DLSS, which means that you can render from much lower resolutions and it will still look decent. So yeah, I don't buy this concept that it's going to be more powerful than a Steam Deck or even, close to Series S. It's just not going to happen. But it shouldn't need to, because you'll be getting bespoke ports built to the quality level afforded by the hardware capabilities of the Switch 2. And if you look at what the Switch 1 did in comparison to the poverty nature of the specification that it had, I think it was a triumph. And I expect to see the same thing happening with Switch 2. Oliver?
Yeah, I think with the Super Switch or Switch 2 or whatever you want to call it, I wouldn't think of it as like a static quantity. I would say the raw rendering power is one thing, and we could say that's maybe roughly in the ballpark of a last-gen console. But then you have storage, the CPU, the GPU features, and those are all ahead of last-gen consoles to some degree or another, and might be able to be exploited to some degree depending on the game, and that might let it punch above its weight, but it will depend on the game. Might be viable for some titles targeting certain resolutions, may not be viable for others when it comes to technologies like DLSS, for instance. So I would say, like, is it as powerful as the Series S? I don't think those combinations of technologies will allow it to be as powerful as the Series S. I really doubt that. But could it punch above its weight? Could it achieve a better result than a Steam Deck? Sure, but I wouldn't call that being more powerful necessarily. I'd just say it's using its power differently, sort of. That's how I would think of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right. That's all I would say too. Like it's going to be using different technologies to achieve its results than what a Series S would have, and it's also going to have extremely different. Steam Deck has a limited battery life. The OLED is better at this, but I think Switch is going to be targeting battery life than even a Steam Deck OLED. Like how long you can play a game for, I presume, based on the OG Switch. So its constraints are different, and you have to balance that always into the equation. Like the power is not the only thing that matters, and it's more about the experiences it allows, and also how long can I actually play this thing while jetting across the Atlantic or Pacific.
Or at least Pacific Oceans.
Yeah, it's the only way I'd imagine using one. So
yeah, Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Red Sea. No.
None of that. It's got to be at least one of the 7 C's, Rich.
Yeah, so I entirely agree. It is basically going to be bespoke software built from the ground up for that specific machine. And yes, there will be nips and tucks, and you've got to trust the developers to make the right calls there. And sometimes it will work, and it will look great. And, the Rebellion games, for example, we often cite them as looking astonishingly close to the PlayStation 4 versions of the same game. And there are differences, but when the screen is so small, it's irrelevant. And you'll see the same thing happening on Switch too. And but equally, there will be ports that aren't great, which won't be as good. And I guess you probably wish you did have the horsepower for Series S at that point. But as we've talked about, it's just not going to happen in that respect. But yes, $399 tops. I think that's basically where they're going to be aiming for. But I guess we just need to wait and see.